Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Larry Williams, Jr. Larry lives in Oakland, California with his wife, Desiree, of 18 years, and his 3 sons. He is a motivational speaker who started Next2Get curriculum for middle and high school students. Welcome to the podcast, Larry.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, just so people can get to know you, why don't you start out by just letting us know where you came from, where you started, your journey of how you got to where you are now.
All right. Well, as a kid, I think I lived a pretty normal life. I got to see my dad, my mom and dad divorced at the age of 2, but I got to see my dad a lot in the summer. At the age of 11, though, is when things started to change. We actually moved back from LA to Oakland, and my mom got remarried. But then she started to get on drugs. I didn't realize it at the time, but she got on drugs. And so I started to live with different people. And, I didn't think none of that at first. But there was one day my dad came to my auntie's house, and he wanted me to go live with him. And I actually decided I didn't want to live with my dad just because I didn't like my stepmom. And that was really, she was cool, but I just, didn't want to go live with them. And so from that day forward, I lost contact with my dad and my mom. And so I ended up living with 6 different families and going to 4 different high schools. I actually went to 2 different junior highs as well. So I learned how to adapt. I was really good at football, though. I remember my senior year, the first game of the season, I had a touchdown catch, I had an interception, I had a fumble recovery, and I ran back an 84-yard punt return. It was amazing. Great.
Oh, yes.
I was in the newspaper that Monday. They came and spoke to me. My coach was, saying, yeah, we want him all around the ball. And instead of me focusing on what I could do that year, like, ball out that year, maybe get a scholarship, I focused on what I didn't have. I focused on the fact that no one came to my football. Like, I literally had to call people to tell them what kind of game I had. And so I started focusing on what I didn't have. And I did have support, just not from family members. And so the second game of the season, we're playing at home, and I catch a touchdown catch. And I'm looking in the crowd, and the crowd's going crazy. And I literally said to myself, there's no one there for me. And so I shut it down. And after that, I was missing catches, letting people tackle me. I wasn't making tackles. It was just, I had a very average year, which may even be good for other people, but it was very average. And then after football season, my mom had kind of got herself back together, and I moved back to LA. And so I still wanted to pursue football. So after graduating, I went to Fairfax High for the last 6 months of high school, and which was horrible. It was my year, and now I'm going to a new high school. So I went there after high school. I had got a car, I was working, and I was going to a JC playing football for a summer league. And it was going great. And I thought me and my mom were going to be on the same page this time. And we weren't. So I thought that she knew once football season started, I wasn't going to be able to work 30 hours a week. But she wanted me to work. And she was like, no, I need you to work. And so I got in my feelings. I was like, I can't believe you're not going to support me again. And, I was mad. And so my coach called me several times, left me messages saying, Larry, call me so we can work something out. I never called him back because I was focused on the negative. I was focused on the fact that I had a plan, and now my mom is not going to let me do this plan. And so instead of calling my coach back, I adapted to my environment again, and I ended up gang banging, doing robberies. I've been in shootouts. My mom got back on drugs. I ended up selling drugs to my mom. Like, I really went left. And all because I focused on the negative. And all because I really didn't have an identity. My identity was always in whoever my friends were at the time. So even though I love football, my identity was, whoever I was hanging with. So I ended up doing that. And I had a really bad robbery that happened that is just a crazy story. But that day, I stopped doing anything that was related to criminal activity. And I didn't realize until later on how blessed I was to get away from a situation like that. So then I had my first son when I was like 21. And at that point, it was like, okay, I got to get my stuff together. You know, I started going to a computer trade school. So I did that, got myself back together, but I still kind of hung out with the homies and you know, I went through my phases where I was in church and I'd come and I'd be bumping Kirk Franklin and, you know, come to the block and they thought it was funny. But again, I still didn't have the identity. I was still kind of going back and forth. And so my son's mom, me and her ended up breaking up when my son was around 2. And then I lost contact with my son from the age of 3 to 7. Got him back, but when I got my son back, one of my best friends was killed like a month after I got married. And so instead of me telling my friends, you know, what we shouldn't do, you know, because they wanted to go and retaliate and all of that. And I knew I couldn't do that. But instead of me telling them that, I kind of was like, well, if we don't know who did it, I can't do it. And that was kind of my way out. But it ate me up inside because I couldn't be honest. I didn't have anyone to talk to. So I ended up getting on drugs because there was just so much pressure and I didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to communicate. So I ended up getting on drugs for like 3.5 years. I did meth. And, you know, my wife left me. I literally, anything I had, I probably sold. I don't have anything from that point. And, you know, finally one day, I think it was 2005, New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, 2005. I was in my car and I was like, God, I can't do this anymore. And, you know, I ended up moving in with a friend of mine and that was the last time I did drugs. So, but again, then me and my wife got back together. You know, we started living together, which was great. We had a good relationship. My wife had 11 miscarriages until we had our first son, Noah, in 2012. And so we were married 11 years before we had Noah. And then my daughter came along 2 years later. And that was when I kind of had like a midlife crisis. I wasn't happy. I'm still at the same job I'm at now, but I was not happy. Me and my wife, it was funny. We could talk on the phone from work and I get home and it was like this tension. It was really
Wow.
So I knew there was something else for me, but I didn't know what. So I thought I was going to win the lotto. I'm like, God knows my heart. He's going to let me win the lotto. And, that did not happen. So one day I remember my wife said to me, and it really actually pissed me off because I wasn't wanting her. I didn't want to hear that because I kept saying, you know, God's going to bless us. And she said, why would God bless you if you're not doing anything? So I was not happy when she said it, but it really resonated with me because I wasn't doing anything. And so that's when I really started figuring out what can I do. And it was funny. I opened my closet one day and there was a shirt in there said N2G. And me and my friend had coached the 8th grade basketball team. And the name of the team was called Next2Get, but the letters were N2G. And so I was like, Next2Get. My first shirt I made was Next2Get Millions. I was like, oh, that's the shirt. That's when I started the brand and, you know, Next2Get Fit, Next2Get Blessed, Next2Get Greatness. I in my head, I'm like, everybody wants to be Next2Get. And so I thought when I put the website out there, the sales would go crazy, and that didn't happen. So I was in the bathroom one day, and I had a Next2Get Blessed shirt on, and I literally heard God say, I'm gonna bless you if you're not living right. And so that was when I really started to focus on me, started to focus on, stop playing the blame game of you know, this and that, and started really working on me. And that was really when it really changed. And that's how Next2Get evolved from being just t-shirts to what it is now.
Wow, quite a journey.
Yes.
So
yes.
You said you started out with t-shirts. So what is Next2Get now?
It's still t-shirts. I wear, I don't know, you probably can't see it, but I wear a t-shirt.
Okay.
I wear a t-shirt, I mean, unless I'm at work, of course. But everywhere I go, I feel like I got to live the brand. But now it's kind of evolved into more of a mentoring, more of coaching, more of an inspiring youth or whoever I'm speaking with to be next to get their success. So for me, next to get is, I kind of focus more on youth because, of what I went through. But it's also never too late, right? So no matter what age you are, if you can learn to be consistent, you can be next to get your success. But it's all about being consistent, doing something you love, and figuring out what your purpose is. So, so the brand to me is it can do a lot of different things, but I'm just gonna focus on youth right now until it evolves in that area.
Got it. So are you just starting out with this part of the business then, or have you already are you working with youth now?
Yes, I do. I work with about five different kids. Two of them play football and three of them play basketball. So I'm actually going to a game tomorrow night to support one that plays at Notre Dame High here in the Valley. Mm-hmm. So, and then, and I'm just speaking to them, whatever life I can speak to motivate them. At this point, I want them to be next to get a scholarship, right? But it's about putting in the work. So it's not about, I have a regret because I didn't put in the work. So if I wouldn't have got a scholarship, it would have been, I wouldn't have a regret because I knew I gave my all. If I didn't make it to I used to always think about, when you didn't give your all, you always have this, man, I could be in the pros, right?
Yes.
If I would have gave my all, then I would know I wouldn't have made it or I would have made it. So I just want them to give their all in everything, not just the sport, but the academics. Because one thing I have learned is that if someone sees the work you put in, it opens other doors. So the work you put in, the attitude you have, all of that combined opens door for other things. So maybe you won't play the sport, but that doesn't mean you can't be in the sport. Or you know what I mean? So there's lots of different opportunities for people. And it's all about putting in the work and having that positive attitude and figuring out what else are you next to get if that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. So if you take a student and they are thinking the way you were growing up, always kind of looking at the nobody supports me, nobody loves me, whatever that negative mindset was, how do you work with them to help them change that mindset so they can be looking for opportunities?
Well, the first thing I learned is kind of sharing my story with them, because a lot of kids really not going to open up to you because I know for me, there were some men in my life that tried to speak to me, but to me, it was like, you don't know what I'm going through because I never heard their story. They may have had one, but here they're just saying, oh, you need to do this. And for me, I didn't relate to them because they didn't give me anything to relate to. So the first thing I do is share my story, depending on what it is. I don't talk about gangs if I don't need to talk about gangs. If it's sports, we talk about sports. If it's, gangs or whatever it might be, we'll talk about that. If it's living with different families, I talk to a kid who's in foster care, or another kid whose father passed away 2 years ago and they had to move around. So it's more of just giving my story, and then they open up, and then I'm able to kind of see what they do like to do, and then we can speak to that. I met one guy, he's 15 years old. This kid is amazing. Been through a lot. Like, I think I've been through a lot, but when I hear his story, he's only 15 and he's been through a lot, and he's had really a lot of death. Besides his father, his dad's best friend was like his uncle, and then another one of his dad's friend, all within a 2-year span, have all been killed. And just the opportunity that I have to speak to him is so powerful. But he started a brand called Stupid Genius. It's actually his dad started, but then he took it on. And the shirts he makes are awesome. And he's ended up selling some at his school. And then one of the counselors seen him and or seen the shirt and was like, who was doing this? And then they reached out. And the counselor he didn't even know reached out to him and I can't remember the name of the fashion school, but they got him an opportunity to go to a fashion school for 3 days.
Awesome.
He's not old enough to go to the college yet, of course, but he has that door open. And not that I want to take credit for that, but I, wanted to push him to getting into the Instagram and really pushing it. And, doors is open for him. So little things like that are like super powerful for me. And, I just look at God like, wow, you gave me an opportunity to help someone. That it's just amazing. So that's kind of what I do. And then I break the letters down as well. So the letters in Next2Get all have a meaning. So I break that down, and N stands for next. But you can't figure out your next move unless you find the positive. Everyone has some negative things that happen to them, but you got to find the positive, and that's how you can figure out your next move. E is for empower. For me, I didn't believe, we got to be our biggest cheerleaders. And for me, I didn't believe in myself. I wanted support from my family when actually I'm the one that needs to do the work anyway. So we have to empower ourselves. The X factor is our mind. We got to control our thoughts. Now, I don't mean you're not going to think negative, because that's not true. You will have a negative thought, but when you realize it, you got to get it out. And that's controlling our thoughts. T is for transformation. So as you start to figure out your next move, you start to empower yourself, you start to use your X factor, then you start to transform. 2 is you plus the action you need to take equals 2, right? So it's just about taking that action. G is for growth. And every year we should want to be better than we were last year. It's funny, my brand has evolved, but financially it's so funny. People always say, well, are you making money now? And no, I'm not, but the brand has evolved and I have evolved. So sometimes it's not about the money or the finance part. It's about, can you look back and see where you came from? Are you different? Is your brand different as well? So it's the growth. And then E is for earn. So many, even me, I didn't want to put in the work. I wanted things to come easy. That's why when my mom, decided to not, support me, I'm like, well, that would have been the easy way. But I could have called my coach and figured out what he had. So there were, I just had to want to earn it. And especially with social media today, we see this quick success, or we see people's success. We don't really see the journey, right? So no one knows, we just want it, but we don't want to put in the work to get it. So earn, E is for earn. And then T is for, I say thirst and thrive, because I want you to thirst for the next opportunity. I want you to thirst for empowerment. I want you to thirst for your X factor. I want you to thirst for transformation. I want you to thirst for taking action. And I want you to thirst for growth. And I want you to thirst for earn. And as you do that, then you'll start to thrive. It's funny. I look at, I always give like Oprah Winfrey or Kevin Hart or even LeBron James or Bill Gates. Like, these people started something and they're where they are now because they didn't stop. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't, Kevin Hart isn't the best comedian, but he took something and now he's the first comedian to be on Nike. Like, he has a Nike deal. What comedian has a Nike deal? Because he kept figuring out what else is he next to get. He has a great character. He's able to build relationships. That's what Next2Get is about. So I break all that down, and it's so cool because I'm able to relate it pretty much to anything, whether it be sports, whether it be personal growth, whether it be business. I'm able to relate the brand to it. So that's exciting.
That is really exciting. Really
Thanks.
exciting. So, and then you said you were working one-on-one with kids.
Yes.
And you have other programs you're doing with groups, or you're doing it more with just one-on-one?
Well, I'm also a youth leader at church. So I don't really go right now because I'm trying to go to a lot of different football games, which happen on Friday nights. But we have a youth night every Friday night. Pretty much, I think they probably go every other month. They'll take out a week or take out a Friday. But so I do youth on Sundays mostly right now. And then just depending on, what's going on. But I take my kids to youth, which is so awesome as well. And my son calls them the big kids. He loves it. So that's pretty exciting. And that was, I started that in 2017. And it was so funny because I used to tell God, I'm like, I want to go there, but I really don't have time. And it was on my heart to go. And so finally, I was like, the first week of 2017, that first Friday, I started going. And it was like amazing. Not just what I was able to talk to, but the way that I seen their growth. Like, these these youth have amazing stories. These youth have amazing faith. I'm like, wow, I didn't have this as a kid. So it's pretty awesome to see. So I do that. I actually, mentor one of my mom's friends' kids. That's more of a one-on-one as well. But that's probably the only group I do right now. That's the one at church.
So you've mentioned God throughout your journey many times. How does that, your relationship with God, how has that changed your life? How has that empowered you?
Well, for one, I grew up in a Baptist church. Most of my uncles are pastors. But when we grew up in church, and we would be in church like 4 or 5 hours. So when we got old enough to not go to church, we did not. But it wasn't, I don't remember personally anyone talking about a relationship with God. It was more about, this is what you do. And then also seeing my uncles make bad decisions, and it was kind of like, what is this? So I always believed in God, but I never had a relationship with God. And so that was the turning point for me. It was funny. I started paying my tithes before we started going back to church. And I was watching Joel Osteen on TV. So I'm like, someone was like, all right, I'm going to pay my tithes. So we had went to church one time, and they had this thing called, what is it called? It's like an app you can pay your tithes online. I'm like, oh, cool. So now I can just pay my tithes without having to come to church. I started doing that for like a year. And then it was like, you need to go to church. And so it was on my heart. So then I started going to church. And then like that first month I started serving. I joined Growth Track. And then it started to really, I was already doing the relationship, but didn't know it. But when I started to like hear it, whether it be in the word, whether it be in the groups I went to, it was like, wow. So this is what I've been doing. And just a quick story. I was like addicted to porn when, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And, my wife would see it on my phone. It caused issues. And I was always praying, God, I don't want to do this no more. But that would be it. I'd say a prayer, and then the next day be doing the same thing. And so finally, when I started to work on having a relationship with God and try to walk his walk, I remember one day me and my wife were sitting on the couch, and we were watching something where it was like a sex scene, but it wasn't like her top came off, and I kind of just turned my head, and I was like, whoa. And I looked at my wife, and I said, and that's when it clicked to me. I hadn't watched porn in months. And I didn't even realize it because I've been so focused on working on him. I didn't know the desire went away. And so I'm really big on, a lot of people like to pray for things, but then they're not doing the work or building that relationship for it to actually stop. Yeah. So that to me really was like, wow. That was like an aha moment of what God can do when you have a relationship with him. Like that desire is gone. I don't have it anymore. And it's because I keep building my relationship with him. So anytime that I get to speak with, especially with older men, because I have I've been married 18 years now, and me and my wife have been through a lot, I'm able to mentor some men that are married or that are thinking about getting married. And it's so crazy. A guy actually seen my video that I did a couple of years back on porn. And I've never even physically met him, but he reached out to me via Facebook, and me and him talk, and I'm able to talk him through things. And it's funny when I speak with him, when I get off the phone, I'm like, wow, that was God. Like some of the things that come out of my mouth are like, oh. So it's like God really speaking on this phone. But I teach him, it's about the process of us. Like we can't force anything on someone else. We have to be better in ourselves and let that adapt. So yeah. That answered your.
And I just got chills when you were talking about when you're watching that movie and you just turned your head. I mean, oh gosh, how did that affect your marriage? I mean, when your wife sees that reaction,
it has been so, I can't even think of a word, empowering, because I used to not want my wife to touch my phone because I didn't know if I looked at something or if, you know what I mean? I didn't know. And, you know, even, you know, besides it was porn, I used to love going to happy hour at work, right? And it was so funny. I had this intention in my head, but I didn't realize it. So I would go to happy hour to intentionally get tipsy so that I could flirt, right? And so it was more than just the porn. It was literally, and that would be my, if I got caught flirting, that would be my excuse, the alcohol. But it was like a premeditated thing I'm already doing in my head. So that whole process of growing with him changed the game. Like I literally, my wife has my code. She goes, there's no, I didn't even understand how much pressure that takes off of you when you can just let your wife touch everything. Like it's so, I can leave the house now. If I leave my phone, I leave my phone. I don't care. There are women that call me, but there's nothing there. You know what I mean? Like I would be nervous if my phone rang, like, who is that calling? So it's such a peace. It's a peace. It's very peaceful. It's very pleasant. My wife, who has seen me go through some things, now trusts me with other women only because of the change. If I wasn't changed, I would not be able to go and speak to a woman or you know, any of that. So that's so powerful. Like that to me is very powerful. And to be able to talk to a lady and not have any premeditated thoughts is also powerful. To be able to speak to a lady and give my, you know, speak to where I came from is it's amazing. It's amazing what God can do.
It is so amazing. And you know, as you're talking, I just kept thinking of that word trust. I mean, without trust, there is no relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now you have that ironclad trust, and that's
I have the trust, and it came from me working on him, or me working to be, you know, be better in him. Because when you're trying to be right with God, everything else has to start being right in your life. It was funny. My son asked me the other day, some gospel, I don't remember what song was on, but he said, what is righteousness? They were saying righteousness. He was like, what does righteousness mean? And I said, I kind of broke it down simple for him. And I said, when you're doing everything the right way, when you're doing things the right way, when you're doing good things, that's what righteousness is. And that's kind of what's changed for me. I try to do, you know, we all going to make mistakes, but as long as you learn from them, it's powerful. So, you know, I don't get, God has put me to a point in my life where I can have a confrontation where someone can come at me the wrong way, and I'm able to analyze it and be like, you know what, he may be having a bad day. I don't know what's going on in that person's life today, so I can hold my tongue and not, you know, go off on him or lose my temper or lose my peace, and able to calm a person down and actually have a good conversation, which is usually I was very quick-tempered, and I think there too. So sometimes I'm like, wow, God is good, because I didn't have to go there. I didn't need to go there. And by me not going there, I was able to communicate something and actually solve a problem that wasn't even a problem. You know, me and a friend at church, one of the other leaders, had a miscommunication, and he came at me definitely the wrong way. And I stayed calm the whole time, and was able to actually, at the end of the conversation, we both ended up praying for each other. And that was powerful, because it was no need to take it. And I knew it was a miscommunication. I just had to get him to realize it was a miscommunication. And so it was so powerful. And then he came back to me that next day and sent me messages and was like, dude, I'm so happy I know you. Like, you really helped me realize that I was tripping. And that's just God. That's not me. That's God. Because I would have went off. Yeah. So that was definitely God. Those moments are really powerful for me.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, I know we're doing a lot of videos and social media, and you have tips on
Tuesday's
Tuesday.
tips. Yes.
Yes, tell me about that.
So that's funny that it started off as me in like 2016. I said, you know what, let me do videos to kind of get the brand out there, talk about Next2Get. You know, it's about taking action. It's about, you know, being consistent and things like that. And as I did those videos, then I realized, wow, I have a passion to speak. There was never a desire for me to be a speaker. And I've even been told by people in church, you're going to be a speaker. And I always related that to a pastor. I'm not getting up there. You know, that's just,
You're not going to be a pastor.
I'm not doing it. And so it was almost like I ran from that because I didn't, you know, no, I don't want to do that. And as I started doing the videos, I started realizing, wow, I have a story. And then it was funny because I didn't want to use God in my story. And I really had to talk with him like, look, I'm not going to do it because I feel like if I use you, then I'm going to push people out. You know, I want to get everybody in and then I'll use you. It was literally, I did a video that I did, I can't remember what it was actually on, but I was speaking about, you know, my journey and where I came from. And I was like trying not to use God in it. And it was like something on me, like, you can't do this without him.
Mm-hmm.
So from that point on, I was like, I got to use him. So that was the game changer. And that's when I really found my passion.
Awesome. And now, do you have a camp for kids?
I did my first camp, and this is what's so dope about God too. So last year I spoke at 12 events, 9 high schools, and then 3 separate events. This year I've spoke at none, not one. And I remember in August I was like, not actually August, July. I was like, man, that's a trip. I haven't, you know, spoken anything. And I had people tell me, you know, we're going to do stuff, but I guess stuff fell through or whatever. And so I was like, man, I went to 12 last year. I'm thinking in my head, it's going to double this year. And it didn't. And, but what's so powerful is when you have that joy and that peace of being consistent at what you're doing, then I was in a magazine this year, one magazine, 1 newspaper. And then I'm on a podcast. So even though I didn't do the things from last year, I got better opportunities this year. So the camp came from my son, actually. I was thinking I got to do something. And, you know, my son is hard for him to listen. Listening is tough unless he wants to. And so I thought of the camp to focus on listening, but using your eyes and your ears.
Uh-huh.
I call it Next2Get greatness because I feel like greatness starts now. It starts whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Right. So the camp it went really well. Parents were like, you need to do this every weekend. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do it more. I had a kid named Rob come with me and he helped out. And it actually went better than I thought. And, you know, I had a friend of mine from church take video of it. They haven't edited it yet, but I'm gonna be able to post that, and it went really well. But it kind of started from me not having any events this year, thinking, well, let me just put something together on my own, and that's kind of where it came from. And now I'm gonna do more.
Yeah. So you created it. You created your own
Exactly.
event,
Exactly.
which is perfect.
Yeah, it was nice.
Which is really perfect. So they were it was a weekend event then?
It was a Saturday for 2.5 hours.
Okay.
And so we kind of did little games of, one was focused on listening, one was focused on using your eyes.
Uh-huh.
And then at the end we kind of broke out and we did and we did a little bit of football and just kind of different activities. But it went really well, and the parents kind of stayed. A couple parents left, but most of the parents stayed and they got to watch and just see the kids interact. So it was pretty. And what was really nice about it was my daughter was there. Of course, my son was there because he was in it. And you know, to do something like that with your kids and my wife was there as well was pretty awesome. You know, my daughter wanted to do the water bottles, and you know, so that was pretty cool. And then just the excitement of the parents. I only had I think it was 8 or 9 kids, but the reaction I got from the parents was really priceless. they were, I gave them all a shirt. So all of them had to get greatness shirts. And it just, their feedback was like, my kid needs this. And so now I need to figure out how I can do it on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
So you have a huge passion for kids, and you have a huge passion for making this thing bigger so you can help more kids.
Amen.
What is your vision? What do you want to see happen?
Honestly, my vision, and I'm not sure if it's God's vision or my vision, but my vision is for Next2Get to be like sponsored by like a Nike or Adidas or something like that. And meaning that, Next2Get drafted, Next2Get MVP, Next2Get a championship, like those type. And then you break what Next2Get is about. It's not that you will reach those goals. It's that you put in the work to reach those goals. And then that, to me, would give me the opportunity to go to the schools and speak at the schools that can't get speakers. Go to the places that can't afford mentors. And because as much as I want to speak at the pain events as well, that's great. But I really want to focus on the schools that probably can't do it, or the foster cares that can't get a speaker, or, bring, whether I bring shirts or whatever I can bring to give as well. That's kind of my vision. Like the brand, the t-shirt wise, it could take off and give, some financial money where I can then go and speak to places that aren't able to get that type of stuff. And then also, one of my other passions is to actually be a coach on a high school or college team. That's something that I can't go to a park and see kids play football and not play. I can't. Like I'm there. And are you frozen?
Yes. You can keep talking.
You're frozen or no? But I can't go to a park and not play sports. Hey.
Yes, we did freeze.
Oh, sorry.
So, but you were talking about going to the schools that couldn't afford to have a speaker.
Right. So that's kind of why I would like the brand. In my vision, I would love for the brand to be worn by like a Nike or Adidas, so that I can go and focus on the schools that can't get speakers. Yes, I would love to go to the schools that can pay, but my focus would be on the kids that can't afford that, and really be a light and a vessel for them. So that's kind of my vision. Not sure if I'm on the right track with God or not, but that's kind of my vision. And then also, I would love to be a coach on a football team, whether that be high school or college. I cannot go to a park and see kids play football and not play. Like I have to. So anytime I see someone throwing the ball, I'm out there. And I'm acting like I'm in my 20s, but I'm not. So, but I love it. I love just coaching, period. So that's kind of a passion of mine. I would love to do that on the side as well. But I'm just, being consistent, and eventually those doors or those opportunities, I hope, will come.
Mm-hmm. So I've heard you say the word consistent over and over again.
Oh, that's big.
How important is consistency? Tell me about consistency.
To me, consistency is what separates you from someone else. I always use the people going to the gym every year, and the New Year's resolution is I'm going to work out, right? And a lot of people want to go who haven't even been to the gym. They want to go 4 or 5 days a week. Mm-hmm. Well, if you haven't been to the gym, that's not something you can do consistently. So I feel like you need to figure out what can you do consistently, whether that be 1 day a week You can do that for a year, then you probably add a second day. So knowing what you can be consistent at. It's funny, I heard you heard of Eric Thomas?
Mm-mm.
Well, Eric Thomas did a video where he says he wakes up at 3:30 in the morning. And by 7 o'clock, he did a video, he worked out. I'm like, man, that's dope. Like, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And I thought about, now this is when I'm self-aware of who I am. I'm like, well, I know I can't do 3:30, but I started waking up at 5. I think I started at 5:30, and then I went down to 5. Now I wake up at 4 a.m. every day. But I started at something I knew I could do. Mm-hmm. If I'd have went straight to 4 a.m., I probably would have quit. So a lot of times we have to know, what can we do consistently? Build on that, and then you can keep going and add more time or less time or whatever it is. I think the problem with most people is we try to do something that is not, there's no one that you have ever heard say, oh, I was going to the gym 5 days a week and then I went down to 2. No, they end up quitting. Yeah. They're not going at all. Yeah. So it's more about what can you do consistently. So I think consistent, it's huge, and I try to preach that to everyone. Like I talked to a young lady who loves to write, and she's like, "Why? I don't have enough time in the day," and and it's because she wants to write for like an hour. Mm-hmm. Well, why don't you just write for 15 minutes? Just block out that, start that, and then when you start it, then you can add more time or mm-hmm. not. But you have to start somewhere. Yeah. So a lot of times we'll talk ourselves out of it because we feel there's not enough time in the day to do something. So I'm really big on being consistent. That to me is what's going to help you grow. That's going to help you reach your goal, find your passion. Being consistent in anything is positive. So I'm big on that. Yes.
Yeah. That reminds me of the book, The Slight Edge. Have you heard of the book, The Slight Edge?
I haven't, but I might go pick that one up.
Yes.
I like the title.
It talks about how little tiny things you think just eating, choosing to eat a salad or eat a piece of pizza.
Yeah.
But if you ate pizza every day, you'd have one result. And if you ate salad every day, you'd have another result. Exactly. And it's all those little tiny steps along the way.
Exactly. And I think I do it too, because I want my wife, I want my kids, I want people around me to see the consistency that I do. And it's one thing I do that to me is not a big deal, but it definitely has been amazing for some other people. But my auntie started sending me like these prayer messages every morning. And at first I was like, I didn't even want to read them. And this is before I got, really started working on me. And, after a while I started reading them and I'm like, wow, these are powerful. So then I started sharing. And so now I share them. I send them out every morning between 5:45 and 6 a.m. And I send them out to over 130 people every morning, individually. And so I'm consistent at that every morning. And that to me, sometimes I get an email, a text back. Sometimes I don't. But I'm consistent at being able to help someone that I don't even see, because that, and it's so funny because the word that they do read is when they call me and they're like, man, I needed that today. So it's just amazing that and I do it 7 days a week. So whether my auntie sends me one or not, she sent me so many that if I don't get one from her, I just go and reuse one of the ones from back. So but it's been a blessing, and I read them. I don't just send them. I read them first, and I send them out, and they've been amazing.
So what's your best advice for people to live a life of happiness, fulfillment?
Well, first, I think happiness is, I think that's where we have to stop focusing on happiness. I think happiness only comes when where things are going good, when we're getting something. For me, I have, my income hasn't changed in the last 5 years. I actually do more as far as, I go to football games, I mentor, I take my kids places. So I'm spread more, but I have more joy because I'm doing the things I love. I have more peace because I'm doing the things I love. So I think that most people have to figure out what is it besides your job, and of course you have to make money.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it that can bring that fulfillment to your life? What is it? And to me, I think it all has to do in some type of way of helping someone. But what is it that you have a passion? I think everyone has something in them to do. It can be with animals.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that you have in you to do that's holding you back from having that fulfillment. So for me, I think it's just about finding who you are, and then figuring out what is your true purpose in life. How is it for you to give back? And it's funny, the reason I like my job so much
Mm-hmm.
is, and I've had many opportunities to go to like the data center or join a network team, and I never joined them because I thought I'm not going to be able to be around the customers anymore, the business partners. And, because I work on the service desk. And so I didn't realize it, but my passion is I like to help people. So that's why I like my job. I like having them be satisfied that they can work on their computer now. But I didn't know. See, a lot of times we're doing something, but we don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we have to learn to really figure out what it is for us. And that will bring us that joy, that peace. And that, I think, also helps you with consistency. It's hard to be consistent at something when you don't know what it is that you truly like to do. So to me, happiness is great, but happiness is always usually because you're getting something.
Mm-hmm.
or things are just going well. Peace and joy is what keeps you going in the hard times.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. It does. So, as far as going forward with Next2Get, how is it that listeners can help you spread your message? And what support would you like to have?
Just share the videos. I get pretty good responses on the videos. And what else is so powerful too is, I've seen some of my friends just walking in the mall, and one of my things I do at the end of a video is I say bam. I always give a bam. So I see my friends. I actually went to a funeral a few weeks back, and a lot of my friends are going bam because they watch my videos, but I had no idea they watched them. I had no idea because they don't make a comment, they don't share it, they don't like it, but they're watching. And so I think it's so powerful. But to share it, you never know who if someone shares it, who else might see it. But I would just say to share it, support it. As far as listening to it, see if it resonates with you. Every speaker is not going to resonate with everyone. But check it out, see if you like it, and see if it resonates with you. And if it does, share the video, and that would be the only support I'm looking for.
Awesome. And if people want to get a hold of you, do you want to share your website, or what's the best way to connect with you?
So the website has my info as well, which is next2get.com. That's NEXT, the number 2, GET.com. That has, I believe, my Facebook and my Instagram connected to it. But my Facebook and Instagram are also Next2Get into G. And then Instagram is the same thing, Next2Get into G. You can go there. I have the videos on there as well. I do, quotes. I show pictures of, if I'm at a football game, or I'm sharing my stories of where I'm at, who I'm supporting, and just, what they're doing. So, and it's funny, a guy told me a week ago, he was like, he went and looked at my Instagram, and he thought there was a lot of pictures of me on it. And he said, man, you should take all that off. And he gave me some good advice, but then I told him, I said, the problem is if I take it off, then people don't see the journey, right? So then you're deleting a lot of the stuff you did. So I was like, I can't take it off. I can adjust it and do more of what he was saying I could do. But I think when you get advice from people, and I know I'm going off the topic, but yeah. I think when you get advice from people, you really have to know what you want your brand to be, because you got to know what advice you can take from that person that's giving you advice. Like he did say some good things, but he was not on the same page as me. I think he was more focused on money, and I'm more focused on the journey. I feel like money comes when it's the right time, and I believe it will come. But if I focus on money, then I'm losing my purpose. And because my purpose is not, if it was money, then I would have quit a long time ago, right? So sometimes you got to know where you want to be in your brand or your journey or your life, and take the good advice, not all the advice, but you got to know who you are and what your brand's about. So, what was the question?
That's okay. So I was just going to say, I mean, I have to agree with you that I sure wouldn't take you off, because people don't follow brands. People follow people they like and admire.
Exactly.
So if you were to take yourself out, who are they going to follow? They're not going to follow a name or a slogan.
Exactly. So
they're following
that's when you gotta, exactly. So it was funny. A guy told me, I had met Eric Thomas, and one of Eric Thomas's right-hand guys, he said, he was talking about comedians, and he said, Kevin Hart is not the funniest comedian. He said he's not. He said, I know some comedians that are way funnier than Kevin Hart. He said, but Kevin Hart shares his story. The stuff he talks about is his life. So he really lets people in. That's why they love Kevin Hart. I was like, wow. So you're absolutely right. People are going to like you because of what you're sharing. You're being authentic. And then I think too, I feel like if I take stuff off and then I do become successful, then people they have nothing to go back and look at. You know what I mean? I want people to see the journey from when I was just being consistent with no finances. So I want people to see that and hear that and know that it's, it takes time. And things that take time usually are better off when you do get it. So.
Yeah, and it's a great example for the kids that you're working with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amen to that.
So, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for all your wisdom. And I'm so excited for your passion, and just keep it up.
Thank you.
It is needed. It is so needed by our youth. I think there's a lot of lost youth around, and they need what you have.
Even my older son, he's 25, and we don't have the relationship that I would like to have. Part of it's my fault, and I can only own my part. I don't play the blame game, but I have to own my part, and I do believe we'll have a good relationship. Me and my dad have a great relationship, and we went 20 years without talking. So I know it's possible. You know what I mean? So I do see it. I see it a lot in my son, and I also know that kids, it's easier for a kid to take advice from someone that's not their parent than it is from someone that is their parent.
Yeah.
So I had to learn that, because a lot of times when I'm giving him advice, he's like, I'm not listening. So, but I do believe that my consistency is also going to empower him to share his story one day, because he has an awesome story as well. So, but yeah, it's a lot of, and social media may play a part, but I think the parents, the generation we grew up in, family kind of got lost too. You know what I mean? I remember being with my cousins when I was little all the time, and my aunties. Now I don't see them. We're all separate. Our kids don't even know each other. You know what I mean? So it's a lot that has changed, and we have to get back to that. So.
Wow. Well, thank you so much.
Amen. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right.